The RTS genre has spanned over decades and has brought much joy and even some disappointments. But what makes the RTS differ more than other genres? I believe it is due to the wide spectrum of gameplay style it can possess. When we look at the classic RTS such as Dune 2 and early Warcraft and Command & Conquer games, we notice a set of principles that are strictly followed. The mouse cursor is used to issue commands, resource gathering, building and unit construction, building upgrades and dependencies, also known as tech trees, and finally faction unique units and buildings. Your first thought of what a standard RTS should be is likely the classic RTS. And make no mistake, classic RTS styles of gameplay are still found in games even in recent years. A lot of RTS fans, especially the older generation, tend to stick with this style for the obvious reason that is what they grew up playing, but also they enjoy both the macro and micromanaging equally. This classic style fits in the center of the RTS gameplay spectrum because of the balance between the two managing styles, and as you move away either left or right, the balance of macro and micromanagement either dips or lifts, moving towards the sides where macro management of the economy, recruitment, and base building is seen less or in some cases not present at all, and the micromanagement, battle tactics, and unit-focused upgrades known as the RPG element is emphasized, are where games such as Warcraft 3, Kingdom Under Fire have swayed very slightly in this direction with the RPG element of their special units called heroes. An experience meter is present, and when a level is gained, their stats improve and they are capable of learning new spells or skills. There is also a game called Z where the economy is non-existent but the recruitment is still present, although it is done automatically and requires little attention. Or with the myth games, where you have a fixed number of units per mission and must use each one efficiently, as both the economy and recruitment is nowhere to be found. Certain RTS fans do enjoy the simplicity of only having to deal with combat tactics and dread the idea of flipping back and forth on the map between the two. This side of the spectrum can often be labeled a genre on its own called RTT, real-time tactic, and also the MOBA genre that has branched off the RTS, which heavily focuses on the RPG element. Now going over to the complete opposite side of the spectrum, we have the more economy and base focused RTS games, such as the Settlers series. In the Settlers, it has the player focus on many sources of income, and there is a dependent interconnection amongst the buildings, making the placement of these buildings important for the growth of the economy. As well, we saw a slight push in this direction of the spectrum with Seven Kingdoms, although the combat is still an essential part of this RTS. There are many other variables within the kingdom that can either aid or hinder your rule. Kingdom reputation, which can be translated to a population happiness meter, is visible, and certain things you do as a king can have an impact on how your population will react by rebellion or growth through procreation in the joining units coming from independent or rival kingdoms. This side of the spectrum often borrows from the city building genre and can make an RTS slow down in pace. It is more for casual players who seek less competition that comes from the military tactics and conflict. Now of course there are exceptions, and gameplay styles for RTSs are not limited to being placed in a certain area on the spectrum, but when looking for an overview, this can help you determine what style you enjoy most from an RTS. I also want to mention that I don't believe that any of these RTS gameplay styles are superior to the other. I have witnessed successful and pleasing RTS games that fall on each of these areas. In my opinion, it really depends on my mood and what I'm feeling that day. The RTT side of the spectrum is usually when I want more of a faster gameplay and don't have to invest in too much time playing because, life is always in the way. Or the times that I do, but when I want to play casually, the city building genre RTS is perfect. And lastly, being in the middle of having a balance between these two gameplay styles, the classic RTS seems to stimulate the most brain activity due to having your focus flip back and forth of micro and macro managing. Tell me what your thoughts are on this spectrum. Do you think it is true? Do you have a preferred RTS gameplay style you look for when selecting an RTS? Or are you like me, where the importance is how well the game is made? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you.